Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Produce Buzzers podcast. We are so happy you have joined us today, and I think you will be too after the show is over, because you will learn a lot about fresh fruits and vegetables, how to select and store them, how to prepare and cook them, and surprising facts about their history and origin. We hope it inspires you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, not only for your health, but also for your delight and pleasure as you explore their amazing world of taste and delicious flavors. Eating more of them will transform your life in so many positive ways. So settle back, relax, and get ready for another delicious adventure with the Produce Buzzers. Greetings and welcome to another delicious episode of the Produce Buzzers podcast. I'm Edwin Stepp, your host and executive editor of ProduceBuzz.com. I'm joined once again by the founder and president of Produce Buzz, Teresa Nolan, and Rick Stepp and Cynthia Benedetto, both contributing editors to Produce Buzz. Now, Produce Buzzers podcast fans, we have a very special guest on the show today. Our guest is a leader at a fresh produce company that doesn't see its primary mission as just growing delicious veggies, even though that's exactly what they do, and they do it better than anyone else. But second to that is this company's vision to transform lives. Now, that may sound like a BHAG. Have you ever heard of a BHAG? That's a big, hairy, audacious goal. I learned that in marketing a few years ago. But that may sound like a BHAG for a grower and supplier of fresh produce, but stick around to hear their story, and you will become a believer. Our guest today is Lori Castillo, Vice President of External Relations and Public Relations at NatureSweet, a grower and supplier of tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers. There, she leads the company's external voice and ESG partnerships, which stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance Partnerships, which, as the terms imply, are efforts to create sustainability on a wide range of fronts. Lori is a proud San Antonio native whose roots run deep in Texas, with family history tracing back long before the border moved. The daughter of military veterans and migrant workers, she has long been driven by commitment to community, equity, and education as a pathway to opportunity. Over her decade-long tenure with NatureSweet, she has held leadership roles in marketing and commercial operations, earning recognition as Groundbreaking Associate of the Year and helping NatureSweet transform lives through its people-first mission. Her career began, though, at Procter & Gamble, tiny little company you've probably never heard of, where she helped grow CoverGirl brand into a $1 billion brand. Lori holds an MBA from the Ohio State University, I have to say it right, and a BBA from Texas A&M University. She is chair of the board for Texas Public Radio, a board member for Texas A&M San Antonio and the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber, and a member of the Texas Lyceum. In 2023, she was named a Women's Leadership Award honoree by the San Antonio Business Journal. Lori, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we want to focus today on the great products that NatureSweet grows. But first, we've heard a little bit about you. We teased it a little bit in the beginning, but let's hear a little bit more about you. What's your background and how did you get into the produce industry?
You bet. So, as you heard, I am first and foremost a fighting Texas Aggie, which oddly enough, I studied business there, even though it has a pretty big ag history, and ended up somehow in finance, then going into marketing actually with Procter & Gamble, and had the wonderful opportunity to work there for quite a bit of years and really get that training under me. But, my heart has always been back home. And so San Antonio called and I got the opportunity to come back. And truth be told, I, being fully transparent and vulnerable here, thought that NatureSweet would be a 6-month stopgap and I would figure it out once I got back home and I moved from Baltimore. And I'm happy to say 10 and a half years later, I'm still at the company that captured me with their purpose and why we do what we do every day for our associates.
Yeah.
So I joke that I went from walking runways to walking greenhouses and from red carpets to red tomatoes.
That's great.
But really able to apply a lot of the knowledge that, I had working for a CPG, working for NatureSweet, a
Yeah.
branded
Well,
company.
San Antonio is such a fantastic city. I love that city, the canals and everything, the restaurants,
Mhm.
everything is just fantastic. And that your roots go deep there. Sounds like back before it was Texas.
That's right. So we joke, we on my dad's side, my dad's family has been here since the border crossed them. They didn't cross the border. So we've
Yeah.
got very big ties, not only to Texas, but also to agriculture. So on my dad's side, they were migrant workers. And so half my family is in Texas, half of them are actually in Ohio.
Oh,
And whatever fields and crops that were kind of along that line, migratory work is what they did. And
oh.
so funny story, when I told my dad I was coming back and working for an agriculture company, he was not the happiest. We sacrificed and we sent you to school so you can kind of get out of this business. And it took a while for him to be convinced that there can be good guys, quote unquote, in the industry who really
Yeah.
care about their employees and who want to do better for the entire ag industry. And, not not benefit on behalf or on the backs of our workers, but because they do the right thing and
Yeah.
because they put people first before profit.
Right. Well, that sounds
Yeah.
like he was trying to give you the way out that we all tried to get out from our farmers business,
That's right.
But
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 it's a great
now
success
understand though,
story. Yeah.
understand you're stuck. So
I know. Oh,
you
that's
were
clear.
in
Yeah.
like the glamorous biz and the now
Yeah.
like and you were crunching numbers. Those days are so over, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go and start my own business making whatever, and you're gonna get sucked back in to the produce business. Like it's over
You say with
for you.
love. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, absolutely.
It pulls us back
Yes.
in. I tell you, it's
Mhm.
something about it. Well, let's talk about NatureSweet then. How long has the company been in business? Can you tell us a bit about
Yep.
its history?
It was founded in 1990 here, actually in Texas, in Devine, Texas, and it started out as the concept of making greenhouses. And the output of those greenhouses were delicious tomatoes. And so the owner at the time thought, well, hey, there's a business model.
Yeah.
And so over time expanded, grew into Mexico. We now have facilities both in the US and Arizona and in Mexico. And we are beyond just tomatoes. We do have cucumbers and peppers, all of
Mhm.
the controlled environmental ag kind of basics in both organic and conventional offerings, which is
Okay.
great. I think the thing that really stands out, kind of tying back to P&G and where we are today, is just being recognized as the number one branded selling snacking tomato
Oh,
is exciting.
yeah.
And it's recognizable by consumers. And so because it's, primarily a very commodity driven industry, being able to really connect with consumers who recognize your package and who recognize your story is part of the greatness that keeps that part of my heart and soul fed,
Yeah.
aside from doing the right thing the right way for the business and the
Right.
industry.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's there's very few brands in the produce aisle that really can build the way you have, NatureSweet. There's a few others, but because fruits and vegetables are not widgets, it's
Oh,
hard to
no.
control the quality and to make it a brand that is always exactly like a widget. It's just impossible to do. But it's a little bit more control in greenhouses, I suppose, since that's where you grow, but still not guaranteed. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What sets NatureSweet's tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers apart from others?
You touched on it a bit, and you're absolutely right. This isn't a roll of paper towels that you can put in inventory or batteries that you can store for a while. These
Yeah,
are living, breathing things with shelf lives.
right.
That was probably one of the biggest transitions I had to wrap my head around coming from a CPG.
Right.
But I do think what makes us unique and what makes NatureSweet really stand out for that quality is that we're vertically integrated. And so that might be a lot more difficult to do, but what we say is from seed to smile, all the way from the proprietary seed that we have that gets packaged in the quality packaging that we own, we have control over our fruit and our produce. And I think, that business model does have its limitations because we are growing for demanded forecast. It's not just growing for pounds, we grow for quality and for consumer demand. Matching that with life cycles and Mother Nature is a lot of fun. But because we're vertically integrated and, not migratory, right? So we're all greenhouse grown. On the one side, from a plant perspective, we have skilled labor that has our, attrition rate is so low. We have folks who have worked with us for 10, 15 years. So
Wow.
they've literally become experts. They know when to pick, they know what it should look like, they know if the plant is having a great day, if the plant's not having a great day, and maybe how to fix that. But that's a skill. That is
Right.
a skill that is amazing. And I mean, they walk in and they can kind of bend a cucumber and go, oh, we need to do, water this or those types of things that are just, I mean, it's impressive to me.
Right.
But they have that training and that skill because they do it so often and they're in the greenhouses, with each other and paid on productivity. So the better and healthy the plants are, the better and healthy they get to go back home to with their families and their pocketbook.
Yeah.
And I think on the other side, when you have that and we're, back to the business model, being able to invest in not just our associates, but because they're there and they know they're going to have a job year round, we can invest in schools, churches, local community, just gatherings. And that in and of itself really helps support. So when you feel good about the company you work for and you feel good about the product you're putting out, that quality is what ends up on our shelves and in our mouths and for our families. And I think that's really part of the secret sauce that NatureSweet has gotten right.
That's beautiful. And it is a whole ecosystem beyond just
Hmm.
the soil and the plants and factors and growing. There's a broader, inclusive cultural
Yeah.
appreciation for, and out of that comes the best products in any situation, I think. So that's great. So you're growing greenhouses. Are you in soil, hydroponic, or both?
So we're hydroponic in Boli in what we consider bolis with a mix of cocoa peat. So that actually that material helps. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, right?
Well, I've
Helps.
heard of it, but our
Hmm.
listeners probably aren't. Maybe we don't want to take a lot of time on that, but
No,
just give
yeah,
us a
and
little.
I couldn't give you the down to the science of it, but what I can say from a marketer's point of view is, that fibrous material actually helps absorb water a lot better. So you use a lot less water. It's got the nutrition that is in there.
Okay.
And when we grow, with each very intentional drip irrigation, you give the plant the attention it really needs to make sure that it's the healthiest it can be. We can get cycles or the longevity of the life cycle of the plant
Yeah.
to make sure that we're really maximizing not just the fruit, but the resources that we're blessed to have, like water, we can use
Right.
less water. That's
Right.
good, right?
Now,
And
when I hear the term
Mhm.
cocoa peat, I'm thinking, okay, so these tomatoes taste like chocolate then if you have cocoa.
Oh no, it's
No,
like a
I'm
coconut.
kidding.
Like it's the hairy husk
It's
around
the
Yeah,
a
husk, right,
coconut.
right, right.
I
That's
do
what I
that.
thought.
We
Like the
just
Yeah.
we try to make a few jokes here. We don't succeed, but
Yeah.
anyway. So, but I wanted our listeners to understand. I
Yeah.
I thought it was from coconut. It's coconut
Well,
husks. Is that
it's
basically
it's
what it is?
coconut husks.
Yeah.
Funny story, not being brought up necessarily in produce. When people were telling me about chocolate tomatoes,
Oh
they
yeah,
were
right. There
referencing
aren't
the
such thing.
color,
Yeah.
not necessarily the flavor profile.
Right.
So when I tasted it, I was like, well, this doesn't taste like chocolate. Well,
Yeah.
no joke, because it's the color that they're
Yeah.
referring to.
There's chocolate
Yes.
peppers too, I think.
That's right.
I don't know if you
That
grow
are
any of
that are
those.
not that
They
don't
don't
taste like
taste like
chocolate.
chocolate, but they have that color. Yeah.
That's right.
So
That's right.
that's great. Well, I interrupted you in that I was asking you about how they're grown.
Hmm.
They're technically hydroponic, but you have this other material that's
Hmm.
there to give the nutrients, I suppose, as
That's right.
opposed to, do you have to inject any other nutrients into the water solution?
There is definitely some fertilization, we call it fertigation, that happens. And we've got our master growers that can, get into the science of things. And so, you got to remember when we align on what variety we're going to grow, that has been years of research. So we travel the world to find the right, not just flavor profile, but if you think about all the quality aspects that we need, the firmness, the shelf life, and one, can we grow it? Two, do consumers want it? Because we can
Yeah.
make chocolate covered tennis balls all day long. It doesn't matter if there's no consumer demand for it. So balancing those two things and really making sure that we have the ability to grow that commercially and at scale. So when we go to these growers and seed breeders, those are all of the check marks that our R&D and our, really scientists go to make sure that we can do
Yeah.
well and
You had
profitably.
you really had a product that Cynthia wants, chocolate covered tennis balls. She loves chocolate and she loves tennis. So you've got a
Exactly.
market of one there if you want to get on that.
But it has to it
There
has
you
to be
go. Yeah.
real chocolate and like with sweetness because I'm
Yeah.
I had a question when like from day one from when you put the seeds in and all the little stuff,
Mhm.
when do you harvest? What's the
So check
Uh,
production
a
time?
timeline, I guess, of a tomato
yeah.
Yeah.
plant.
Not like a gestation
Yeah.
period, but like
No,
when
so like
yeah.
seed goes in, seed is sown, right? Then seed goes into, it stays in a nursery like little babies, and they're very protected because just like people, the younger they are, the more prone they are to either disease or infection or anything. So we take care of them. That then they get planted from the nursery into the actual greenhouse. And from seed to I or from sown to first harvest or first pick is
Yes.
probably about 12 to 14 weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's because they've already grown a bit in the nursery. Now they're strong enough to go and live in a greenhouse, and then, they don't produce fruit for a couple of
And
weeks
you can
until.
produce year round, I take it.
Yes,
Right,
that is the beauty of greenhouse grown. So
right.
if I could kill the theory of tomato season, I would, because you can get tomatoes that taste great all the time.
Teresa, you have a
Teresa,
question.
yeah.
Yeah. Now you're growing them in greenhouse. Are these artificially lit or are you dependent on the
No.
weather at all?
So that is one of the main differences. We have a combination of both mid-tech and high-tech greenhouses. The beauty of where we are located in Mexico for mid-tech with most of our snacking tomatoes is because the region lends itself. It's sunny, it's pretty warm. We don't necessarily need to, like, I know Canadian greenhouses have a large investment not only in heating but in LED lighting just because of where they are, right?
Right.
Equator. So sun, tomatoes like sun and warm. And so we don't have to use LED lighting. We just get to get the benefits of Mother Nature and all the sun in the region where we are.
Yeah.
And
So
are these
a lot better from a carbon footprint perspective,
Mhm.
a lot better.
Are these glass houses or are they hoop
So
houses?
our mid-tech, if you were to look at it, it's like a very hard, dense plastic.
Uh-huh.
That's what we consider mid-tech. And so there's no heating or cooling necessarily in there. Our growers manage those natural kind of resources and weather and by lifting to let breezes come in
Mhm.
or those types of things. Now, Arizona, some of our um, peppers and cucumber greenhouses are high tech. And so with that, you can control the variables a lot better. You can heat those if you need to or not. We're purposefully in a place where we don't necessarily need to control that many of the outside elements because of the temperature in the region that they're in Mexico.
But they can be closed, like
They're all closed.
a
Nothing comes
dog
in.
couldn't get yeah. Okay,
No, no, no.
dog.
Nothing
Okay,
comes
okay.
in. Nothing goes out. When an associate enters into the greenhouse, you literally have to put new, almost like scrubs on, shoes covered, sanitized head to toe, making sure everything is disinfected, making sure, no earrings, no hair, makeup. That was coming from a cover girl perspective. I was like, what? Yeah, no hair, no makeup, no nail. I don't know what's happening. Hair nets. It is like a manufacturing facility or a manufacturing plant. And so just knowing that those living, breathing things are susceptible to outside elements, that's the last thing we want to do. We don't want any kind of transfer or any kind of infection, whatever.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you have your hazmat suits on, and then you go in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
after you get sanitized,
yeah,
yes.
right. So you really have control over any kind of, there's a lot of news almost every day about something being
Mhm.
contaminated with
Yeah.
E. coli, salmonella, all that.
And knock on wood,
Yeah, I
yeah, we've
suppose you're
never
still
had to.
susceptible to it, but you're taking so much controls and you've never had the problem. So that's
That's
really,
exactly, and that goes back to that business model of being vertically integrated.
yeah,
Not it may not be the most efficient at times, but it can almost guarantee the best quality results. And that's why we're in it, right? So we like to keep all of our quality control. Even if we do have a partner, our quality folks are there. If it does not meet our specifications, it does not get the NatureSweet name,
yeah,
period.
fantastic. Great. That's the way to protect the brand, and you know about that.
Hmm.
So you touched on a couple of areas. You said Arizona, Mexico.
Hmm.
Where else do you grow? Where are the regions you
Those are the two in the US.
two?
We're in Arizona, and
Okay.
then we are in, yeah, Mexico,
Okay.
Jalisco. For the majority of our snacking tomatoes are in Jalisco,
Right.
the
Okay.
state.
So the different products that you have, the cherries and the glories, let's just profile those. Are they different varieties?
Yes, one's a grape, one's a cherry. So they have different flavor profiles. They have different just overall qualities. So we'll take glories and cherubs as an example. So everybody, like, no secret, it's the worst kept secret. Everybody snacks on all of them, right? They're all very delicious and convenient. And so you can do that all day, every day. What we like to do is help consumers understand their usage occasion. So we've always said our cherubs are amazing for salads because they taste great. You can rinse them right in the colander. You can just shake them on top and they're ready to go. Glories, which are the cherry tomatoes, we like to advise because it is a little bit of a thicker skin. So the efficacy of that lends itself better to cooking because it can withhold heat. So if you try to put a very sweet yellow tomato with the Brix level of 9 on a skewer, that thing's gonna melt right off and you'll never see it at the end of the meal.
Yeah. That's
Versus
I
a
happened.
love that.
glories, yeah, versus a glorious, which is a little thicker, it can withhold some of that heat and really stay on the stick, right? And so those different types of profile, I think that really is also what consumers are looking for. They need a little bit of help of like a red's a red, and it's like, well, but did you know? These are the kind of tips and tricks that really
Yeah.
help educate consumers, and ultimately give them a better experience when trying the brand and cooking with the brand or snacking with the brand.
Right.
I think so.
I was going to wait to the end of this to go to
Mhm.
this. We'll repeat it at the end as well, but can you direct our listeners to your website? I assume they can find a lot of this information on your website. And if
It's
they,
super easy. www.naturesweet.com. There's a
interesting.
whole list. I mean, you can go into recipes for days,
Yeah.
which is great. And different types of recipes you can type in if you want to Instapot it, if you want to air fry it.
Oh, wow.
Everybody's
Okay.
kind of got their own jam.
Right.
And there's some drink recipes as well.
Ooh, Rick will like that.
Hmm. A little
Rick's
Bloody Mary for
Rick's
you.
getting his
I was going to say
brandy.
Bloody Mary. Yeah.
Rick's getting
So
his
Yeah.
brandy ready already. Tomato
of,
Yeah.
brandy, something.
of all the different, of course, yeah, of all the different varieties, describe to me the difference in bricks.
So I would say the minimum that and now let me take a step back, and I'm sure you guys know this too. Brix is one aspect of the flavor profile. There are several. It's acidity, right? It's sour, it's bitter, it is a very complex, like a grape or like wine. Tomatoes are
Yeah.
you can think about it in the same way. And we actually have an internal sensory panel, which is quite unique to NatureSweet. Not a lot of produce companies have that, but when I was on the CPG side, Nestle had one, right? Kellogg's had one.
What
And
does
that's
that mean?
something, it means that we have trained people with their palate to be able to chart acidity, sourness, sweetness, which is really incredible. I
That
mean, it's
is amazing. Yes,
a
yes.
legit sensory panel. And so whether we randomly inspect or test, or we're trying new varieties, so they fall under the R&D, our research and development umbrella, they're able to flavor profile some of the scouting tomatoes that we get, knowing what consumers have told us they want. So we kind of bridge that as part of our innovation pipeline to ensure that we're delivering on what consumers are asking for.
I don't like tomatoes, I like your tomatoes.
Oh,
That's great.
that's good.
You mentioned the package very, very briefly that you could rinse
Hmm.
them in this package. Now, I bet a lot of our listeners know your packaging, but tell us about, but you have some very distinctive packaging at
We do.
NatureSweet.
We
Tell
do.
us about
And
that and tell us what sets it apart.
I think, it's part of, it really is the iconic piece to this brand. We're working from a marketing perspective. People know NatureSweet. They really know cherubs,
Hmm.
and they can absolutely identify when you go the yellow bottom with the pod.
Yeah,
That is the tell, right? Kind of like a Coke bottle or something like that within produce.
right.
And that's part of our brand recognition. It's part of our colors. Yellow is our color.
Yeah.
To the point where if you just Google it, we have gone to fight for it at least 3 times publicly
Okay.
and
It's
won.
trademarked.
So it's trademarked.
Yeah.
Just like all of our seeds, all of our varieties that are sub-branded are all our property, IP. So it's
Yeah.
trademarked, it's branded. Glories, cherubs, anything with the sub-branded name that falls under NatureSweet. Yeah, that's
Right.
us. And
That dome
yep,
container
that dome.
is magnificent. That
Well, and
is
I'll tell
the
you,
best.
it's trifold. So consumers can recognize it, right? When you've got going back to my marketing insights and P&G and a lot of that training that I got, when you have your primary shopper on the phone pushing a cart, maybe with a child or two in tow, you don't have time to necessarily peruse. So you go and you recognize it, and without thinking, you've got those 2 seconds, you put it in. It's even better if the little one puts it in for you because they love it, right? So it's consumer recognizable.
Yeah.
From our standpoint, from safety, nobody's touching it. It's not rolling around the back of the produce room or in somebody's car. Like, it is protected. That really came to light as a big consumer help post-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID. Don't sneeze on my fruit. And when it is in a protected package from a consumer standpoint, safety goes up, right? It's
Yeah.
not out in the elements. Not to scare, but it's just not. It's like one of the benefits. And from the fruit perspective, our R&D, not only do they find the right seeds and they get the right variety, but our packaging department goes through a ton of research to ensure that this is actually going to help the shelf life and just we don't want to lose flavor over time. We want the tomatoes to stay as fresh as they can for as long as they can from a consumer perspective. So it helps the fruit just last as long as we need to.
Yeah.
So
Fantastic.
The
it's
colander
really,
aspect of it, I think, is my
yeah.
favorite part.
And now, have you guys seen, so when you open the top, there's a little surprise under there,
Yeah.
and it's hopefully a big delight. I will tell you, when we started highlighting back in 2018, when we started highlighting our associates under the label, it was an interesting time, and some folks who are no longer an agency with us, but they said, what if people realize that we grow in Mexico? And
Right.
at the time, I was like, that is the point. This is not a peek under the tent. This is an open invitation to come and see why the high quality that ends up on your table is there. It's because of our associates and where they are and how we grow
Yeah.
and where we grow. And that initiative went from a test and learn on one 10-ounce, SKU for cherubs to then all snacking. Now it's across all of our vegetables. And it has turned into such an amazing story, not just to highlight our associates, but we actually get more compliments per month than we do complaints. So we track all the stuff,
Yeah.
right? And so the complaints used to be like, I get mold, or this one wasn't good, I had a fuzzy, okay. It is actually turned into consumers thinking they're speaking directly with our associates.
Right.
So they'll say, hey, Pedro, thank you for this. And they'll take the time to write in.
Yeah.
Or we've gotten some really good, about it's not just one of my favorites. It's not just the CEOs who run these, businesses.
Yeah.
It's the people who are on the tractors, the people who do the laundry. It is the people who are harvesting. That is the heart and soul of your company? And it's like, yes, yes,
Yeah.
it is. So that package also allows us to help
Yeah.
tell and share our story because not everyone is going to go to the website. We
Right.
hope they do, but it at least gets them to a step in that
Yeah.
right direction.
Well, explain a little bit more about this. I think we might have left some of our listeners behind because I think we all know what you're talking about.
Oh,
But
sorry.
just tell, no, no, just
Yeah.
when you on the package, you can peel
Mhm.
off I'll
Yeah,
let
when
you
you peel
explain.
off the top of our snacking tomatoes or you scan the QR code that's on our vegetables, it will take you to a very personalized story of someone who is with the company. Typically, now these associates have been crowdsourced. So
Mhm.
each location, it's almost like prom king or queen to kind of equate it. They get voted by their peers to
Oh,
be on the package of millions of units that go to everywhere in North America, which is
right.
really an awesome internal recognition. And what that story will tell you is what they want to talk about. Some of them talk about their continuing education. Some have the opportunity to talk about their health and how they may have overcome something because of some of the benefits that NatureSweet offers. Some are even about their multi-generational family associates. So a mom will work there, a son will work there. You know, she, like Doña Tere, she went to school, or she didn't go to school, she went to work so that her son could go to school. And Emmanuel ended up going to school and coming back to NatureSweet, you know, as a manager where his mom worked. Like those are the kind of
Yeah. He couldn't get away
stories.
either, huh?
No, that's right. He came right back. He got sucked
No,
right
he
back in.
wanted to come back. That's great stuff.
Yeah. Which is a
Yes.
testament because in ag,
Yeah.
that's not necessarily how it
Right.
goes when you're in the field or you're the one that's harvesting. And
Right.
so to have that type of just appreciation, going back to, you know, my tenure at the company, that's what keeps me here. I
Yeah.
think we're doing the right things the right
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Well,
We're
when you
gonna.
say prom king or queen, so Teresa would be on it, but Edwin, you're out.
Yeah. I'll take
There you
that.
go.
I don't know. People don't believe I'm a brother when they see how ugly I am. But anyway,
Good.
so there is this big emphasis. We've already referenced it a few times at NatureSweet to really take good care of all the workers. You consider them family. It seems like when I look at the website and read around, it's not just we.
It's a powerful team.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a powerful
Tell
team.
us more about, I mean, you've told us a lot already, but tell us a little bit more about the philosophy behind that and how it served you.
Absolutely. So, you know, we fundamentally, one of the most important fundamental human truths that we believe is you reap what you sow. And so,
Right.
oddly enough, in agriculture, that is not what has happened over the last hundred and hundreds of years. A
No.
lot of times, if the worker works harder, they don't necessarily get compensated for that, or they're in different types of extreme, you know, we've seen the news more recently. And so we really do believe you reap what you sow. So it is, when I say it's a team, it is because you choose to be part of that team, right? Family, sometimes you can't choose.
Right.
Teams you
That's a
can
good point.
choose. Yep. Teams you can choose.
Yeah, you're
Um,
looking at a family I didn't choose.
I love it. I love that this is a family. You know, but the really the fundamentals of it is that if you it's productivity based and not in a way that is scouring or a bad way. It is literally you work hard, you get paid. And there are graphs if you ever want to come visit, open invite, you know, that are at the front of the locations that show the productivity and who is not by with names, but the percentage of who is gaining what based on their job. And so one, that's transparency. And so it's easy to say, well, we'll never get 3x the amount of what I'm supposed to get. But if you see that, well, actually people are doing that, right? And
Yeah,
it's in your own hands and you get to choose that. That is power to me. That is culture. That is part of this. Like, I choose to show up and I choose to be there.
yeah,
And I trust that the company is being fair and honest because I can see it and somebody's doing that. And if it's me, then that's great. But they're self-led teams. They are literally given the opportunities. We have a couple of in-house programs called Sweet Family or Sweet Life where it's like almost a continuing education and we help them grow with their kids or we send, you know, sundries home for if they have elders living with them. Every plant has a psychologist. So if there are issues that need to be had, mental health is huge, not just physical health, where they have their breaks and they do calisthenics throughout the day, but
Oh,
your
wow.
brain is also a big muscle that we need to take care of. And so
Yeah.
ensuring that that space is available for them, I think it's that whole 360 of connectivity going to health benefits. I mean, we'll bring in doctors or eye exams, mammograms, and things culturally, prostate exams, right? Like this is
Mm.
stuff where they don't have to go anywhere. We'll bring it to you. And it's not because we want to keep you working, but if it's going to help you be more productive and that's your choice, then like we're going to give that opportunity to everybody.
Right. Yeah.
So
Well,
when you
you
say,
get what you get out what you put in, but it's not about
That's right.
getting either. I don't want to de-emphasize that, but
No.
yeah.
And when you come from a place, and again, it sounds in retrospect like, of course, but it hasn't been like that in ag, where the potential of a human being is limitless. When you start from that place and you can do anything that you want to put your mind to if you have the space to do it, that is incredibly powerful.
Right.
And that is where this comes from, right? So it doesn't matter if you're harvesting, that is where the work happens, or in packaging or in R&D. Like this company philosophy really is you reap what you sow, and we just try to give the opportunity
Yeah.
to everybody to do that.
Fantastic.
when you say that, like they, I think that they can qualify for bonuses and like
Hmm.
stuff like that. So would that be, so in citrus they used to, pack the box and stamp
Hmm.
it, and then like, if your stamp was 2 and mine was 7, you got paid based
Hmm.
on that. So is that similar to that? Like how would you
Yeah, each.
track
So
that?
depending on their role, we've got obviously harvesting, you've got de-leafing, you've got twine and
Oh,
vine. So depending on their role within the greenhouse, they have metrics for productivity. And that's what they're measured on weekly. And so listen, you've got some folks who they're good. They're good with just being, which is a-okay. But if
hmm.
and we pay 40% above the median wage in Mexico.
Mm.
So that is pretty
Wow.
good. On top of that, you get the opportunity to earn what we call a transformational wage, right? Which is that's when you can take your family on vacation or you can buy a house. Like that is phenomenal and an
That,
opportunity that a lot of our associates take advantage of.
Yeah. Very
so
good.
that's like a separate bonus type thing, or?
That's the productivity piece. So everybody's going to have like the base. On
Mhm.
average, we pay 40% above that just because of the productivity, but you can really earn a good living, a great living, I'd say, through the way the bonus structure has been.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, let's get into maybe a little controversial topic, but I think it's important to hear your perspective. Trade between the U.S. and Mexico is going through some
Mhm.
major changes, a bit precarious to put it mildly. And I know there's been some legislation recently specifically about tomatoes, I think, but or other things, and it impacts your ability to import your products. What can you tell us about that? What is the situation?
So I'll tell you, regarding the USMCA broad tariffs, right now, we're not affected.
Okay.
The impending thing that we are in with the clock ticking by July the 14th is the tomato suspension agreement. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that
I'm
is.
aware of it. I really don't
Mhm.
understand it, but I know it's been in the news lately. That's what I said.
It has been in the news and it has been decided that they're going to go away with the suspension agreement, which would mean any tomato that is imported from Mexico to the US would automatically get a tariff or a tax on it. And right now it's between 17 and 21%.
Hmm.
The unfortunate thing is that this suspension agreement has been looked at multiple times. This isn't the first time it's come up, and every time, legislation happens and we've been okay. There was a period of time a couple of years ago where there were tariffs, those were taken back because it was found that there was no evidence of what Florida is saying we're doing, which is dumping tomatoes in the US
Oh,
for cheaper pricing. So
Hmm.
And listen, Florida is concerned about growing big round tomatoes that they harvest green, and a lot of times will just gas for it to be red. You're going to put it in processing, or you can put it in a hamburger or something. I don't know,
Right.
but they're not the flavorful, small, delicious, convenient snacking tomatoes that we're talking about.
Yeah.
We come at a premium. I mean, we're at a premium in the store. We're branded, come like we are a branded produce item. And so our position right now at least is we're not talking apples to apples here. We're not even in the same range. And when that TSA was originally enacted, it was about 30 years ago.
Hmm.
30 years ago, the snacking tomato category wasn't a
So
thing.
there, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The greenhouse revolution wasn't a thing. And
You
so
had Romas and you had rounds. That's it.
and beefs, right? So where
Oh
we
yeah.
have invested in infrastructure, in innovation, in greenhouse technology that uses less natural resources, all of those things have happened in the last 3 decades. They're still open field, they're still doing it the old way, which if it works for them, great, but we are looking at two very different scenarios, and there is no way, I don't know how we would sell for lower in the US. We're here to transform the lives of agricultural workers, but to do that, we need to be profitable. This is a profitable and sustainable business model, not by dumping in the US.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
that's interesting to hear. That clears up a lot for me, so I
mhm.
appreciate that, and listeners too, I think will. Let's. Okay, Teresa. Yeah. Go ahead.
But you do have some product grown in the US, right?
Yes, we do have the Arizona product in the
Yeah.
US. That's
Okay.
absolutely right. So that wouldn't be impacted.
Right.
What
It's
percentage of of uh, of product is grown in the U.S.?
For us, it's maybe less than 10%. The
Okay,
majority of our stuff is grown in Mexico.
Right.
okay.
Okay. Very
Mhm.
good. Okay. Well, let's shift gears here a bit. I wanna get your take on a broader perspective of the produce industry. What do you see as the challenges for the produce industry in the coming
You
years?
know, I'm happy to hear that we want to make America healthy again.
Yeah.
That's going to be really, it may be an uphill battle if we have to increase pricing.
Right.
And so I really think getting healthy fruits and vegetables into the hands of kids and families is should still be one of our main priorities, and doing it in a way that doesn't have to counter how it's being done. So treating our, ag industry, the people who work so hard and break their backs to get this produce to us, treating them the right way so that everyone has access to healthy produce that they can afford.
Right. Yeah,
I
that's a
think
big.
that's going to be an up,
Yeah. Right.
I hope that we can
Right.
maintain to do that.
Yeah, we've been at this for a long time in the produce business, and we've kind of watched the trends. It is amazing to me with all the work that Produce for Better Health, the Produce for Better Health Foundation and other organizations, all the medical foundations pushing eat five a day, eat half your
Yeah.
plate, all of those things. Yet the needle on the percentage of people getting the recommended daily allowance has not moved hardly at all in decades. But
Inflation has gone up. Everything's more expensive.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So people know that fresh fruits and vegetables are good. What do you have something? What would you say to that? What can we do to push that? We're trying to do it here by just getting people to think about fresh
Think
fruits and
about
vegetables.
it, right? The brand
We
awareness
don't.
or awareness in
Yeah,
general.
when we
Yeah.
came to this, we said we're not going to be like your mother, eat your vegetables and be lecture. We just want to have fun and get people to think about it, and I think that's worked. We've got comments from listeners who said, now I think about. Got one just a couple of days ago from a listener who said, now when I go into the produce section, I look at the labels now, and I'm saying, where's this coming from, and what's it? And he's thinking about produce more. So anyway, your thoughts
Yeah.
on what can be done?
Well, I do think that so there's a couple of things. I think that this whole digital revolution and your phone eats first before, you even put your spoon in your mouth, you're taking a
Oh my
picture.
God, I love that.
True.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband's always like, we got to feed the phone first. We do.
That's
So
funny.
I do think continuing to innovate to make consumers pull So, right now, everything on the vine is kind of coming back because we've got charcuterie boards and you want to Instagram
All right.
what you posted for dinner. So, kind of, I think supporting the innovation piece of that so that flavor is always first. But just having fun with it, different colors, different profiles, I think that keeps things interesting.
Yep.
Um, and I do think really holding, I'm going to say it, holding retailers accountable for how they source
Good luck.
is important. Yeah, because it if the end goal is to only have cheaper produce, and if that's the incentive, you can
Yeah.
get there a lot of different ways that
Right.
maybe that is not necessarily ethical, moral, or,
Right.
not to kind of be a high and mighty. But if we can, and consumers want to know more and more where their produce is, where anything's coming from, where their
Right.
shoes are coming from, right? Like the manufacturing, it's just like it's a whole thing. So I think if we can hold retailers a little more accountable on their piece, because listen, unless it's on your shelf, they can't get it.
Yeah.
And if you are really giving some thought to what you're putting on your shelf and how you're charging for that, I think that's where we can really make some strides into not just getting, again, more fruits and vegetables, into the hands of folks, but doing it in a way that we can actually support. My wish and my goal and my like home run is when other industries or other, I shouldn't say industries, when the ag industry holds what NatureSweet does is the base to enter, and that's the floor to get in. Now we're talking.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Treating
That's
people
it.
with dignity and respect, pay them what they deserve, incentivize them, and give them, just treat them like human beings. I think that's when we really start
Right.
making a move.
Yeah. I'm glad you
So
mentioned about the price points, and
Hmm.
we try to mention this in episodes. Fresh produce, even the most highest price in our minds, is still the best value in the grocery store
Hmm.
for what you're getting, health wise, flavor wise, everything. And the price per pound for these things is still very inexpensive compared to a lot of other things in the grocery
Hmm.
store, especially the
yeah,
junk food, snack foods.
last time I bought a big box of frosted flakes. No, that's expensive. No, I'm kidding.
You put
I'm
the
not kidding.
strawberries on them though.
I'm
There
not
you
kidding, but I am kidding. But so my child has a very good palate, and she's a perfect consumer of fruits and vegetables. But if I don't know how again, I have it wasn't my doing. Maybe like I just got lucky with my child. However, what would you do for if for me as a consumer, like I don't like tomatoes, I don't that
go.
like, and so I pass that on to a child. Like, what's your marketing position on to teach me to feed my children better or my child better, or like to get me to taste it, or like how would what's
I think the if we're talking kind of parent-child relationship, the more convenient we can make that. So we have the only ready to eat snacking tomato. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh,
So
I
typically
didn't know
you've
the
got
only
to,
one, but yeah,
yeah, typically you've got to rinse the tomatoes before. I cheat
oh,
sometimes and I just eat them. But
yeah,
like our to go, cherubs to go, constellation to go, those are pre-rinsed. I think the more you can make it convenient and in like a snack grab and go,
yeah.
the better. And
agreed.
yep. And same with like little cucumbers, little peppers, all of those things. And I think that offering recipes and just different usage occasions. So tomatoes and salads go automatically together. But you can put them in an omelet. You can eat for breakfast, right? You can have them as a snack in the car on the way to go. You can have them as a late night snack. And so you're not going for this like crunchy potato chip. Maybe that's just me or popcorn late at night. Like you can also do that with a little bit of olive oil and salt.
Hmm.
So I think introducing new usage occasions, or category entry points, as we would call them in marketing, helps to do that. And when you do that, making it super easy for them, for anybody to do.
Right. Some of the other produce companies, especially apples, I've noticed, are
Hmm.
creating kind of like bento boxes. I don't know what the proper word. They're snack kits with various nuts and apples and
Hmm.
maybe
Yeah.
peanut butter. Or is NatureSweet working? Do you have anything like that already? Or are you working on products like that?
So it's definitely in the pipeline. We don't have anything like that now. And part of that is just us learning, when you put cucumbers and peppers together, or cucumbers and tomatoes together,
Not a good
ethylene
thing.
gas.
Yes.
Right. So going back to R&D, making sure packaging is okay, like a lot of those things, but you can get a snack pack of other things.
Right.
Um, that's definitely something, kind of looking at into our future, because wouldn't that be great? Just
Yeah.
grab
Well, you
and
could
go.
do it. How do tomatoes in a package work with cheese, for instance? I mean,
Yeah.
one of my favorite snacks is just to take your tomatoes, slice them up a little bit, olive oil, balsamic vinegar, salt and
Yeah.
pepper, and maybe some feta cheese and
Oh,
olive.
so good.
That
Simple
is
and so
just,
good.
yeah, and
Yeah.
easy to fix and delicious.
Yeah.
Uh, Cheese and tomatoes in the same package? That's probably not work.
Cheese and tomatoes
Yeah, but
work.
There you
that'd
go.
be, but wait a minute, what about the temperature?
Yeah,
So
that's so
like
those are
that
Ah,
part of
they're
the
like, yeah.
yeah, that's
that's all part of the thing. So like those to-go packages, on top of them being rinsed and ready to eat, it's also a package that can go in the fridge or on the shelf from a retailer perspective. So if you want to be next to the cut carrots and apples and like, those kinds of, we can do that, or we can be next to our general 10-ounce kind of
yeah.
on the produce.
Okay,
You
this brings
do
up
say to put it into the refrigerator.
No,
no,
Okay, so
best
so
not. For
that
flavor,
it
decision is
can.
made
definitely.
by,
But
okay,
from a
yeah,
retailer
yeah,
perspective and shopping, you want to be where the consumer's shopping. It can be in
got
both
it.
too.
Yeah, yeah.
Either of those.
I thought
Yeah.
that was your point
Well,
of view. Sorry.
well, let's
Mhm.
talk about for our listeners, how's the best way to make sure the tomatoes last longer? I know we work for the California Tomato Board. One of the things we preached was don't put your tomatoes in the fridge but it was maybe because of flavor, not so much their longevity. But what can you tell our listeners about the best way to keep tomatoes?
The best way to store, in my opinion, is keep them on the counter because they're that much easier to just grab when you're
And
going
they go away
and
faster.
decrease consumption from my perspective. They're there.
I like it.
We've tested because we like to back things with data. We've tested the flavor profile of leaving the tomatoes in the fridge for a couple of days or and there's not a big difference. Some
Really?
consumers prefer a cold tomato with their cold salad.
Hmm.
Okay. But if you ask me, keep them out of direct sun. Don't put them next to a cucumber and just leave them on the counter. They grow in the sun naturally. They're not typically refrigerated in grocery stores. Leave them on your counter.
I take them out of the package and
Hopefully right into your mouth. No.
put, put them in a nice little bowl,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
it's like a display, a tempting display.
Yeah.
I still keep
Oh,
That's a good way to go
grandson.
too.
and then you pop them in the microwave.
You know what? I was going to say, cherry
But let
tomatoes.
me let me explain to Lori.
Okay.
We have a running joke here. Rick has microwave recipes for everything produce wise, and we rib him about it because Cynthia and I are very anti-microwave. But anyway, go ahead, Rick.
Okay. I've taken cherry tomatoes are not affected as much, like you mentioned, in the refrigerator.
Mhm.
But the larger tomatoes, uh, they will get.
You kill
It
them.
does hurt the flavor if you refrigerate them. But one thing I've found
Mhm.
is I've gone out of town for 2 weeks and put ripe tomatoes in the refrigerator. Come back when I use one, I slice it up, put it on a plate, put it in the microwave for 10 seconds.
Oh gosh.
And no, it works. You can't cook them. If you cook them, they're done. But
No, yeah.
uh, but it
Just
will.
warm them up.
Yeah, don't even warm them up. Just
Okay.
like 10 seconds.
Take the
Something
cold
about it
out.
just vibrates the molecules, and it makes it
Wakes
like a
them up
fresh
a little.
tomato. Makes it like
I've
a fresh
never
tomato.
tried it. I would love for our R&D folks to test it. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
Oh my God.
it works.
They
But
don't
you
explode.
can't do it too
Got to slice
long.
them.
You
Yeah,
don't want to get it. You just want to maybe bring it up to room temperature at the most.
got it.
Okay, we've taken a lot of your time today. Really should let you go. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Since you got 2 minutes, we have a
Yep.
ritual that we put our guests through. I didn't tell Jenny or you about it beforehand because I figured you
Sorry.
surely wouldn't. Come on, but it's very painful. Here's the deal. Teresa
Okay.
loves puns,
Mhm.
and her
Okay.
puns are awful.
Mhm.
So she brings one to every episode, and we punish our listeners with it. But it's usually in the form of a question, and she asks a question, and we try to guess the punny answer.
Okay.
So we call this segment Home Grown.
Uh,
Uh,
So, okay, are you ready? You ready,
Yeah,
Lori? Okay,
I'm
stick
ready.
around for it. Okay, Teresa, what's our homegrown of the day?
well, the tomato and the cucumber were standing over in the corner at a party and they were discussing the pepper. And they were really talking about what a cheapskate he was. He never picks up the tab, blah, on and on and on. So the pepper just happened to overhear it. And he goes, "What are you saying about me?" And of course, they were caught. So they said, "Well, we were saying you were a little cheap." So what was the pepper's response?
Okay, so the tomato and the cucumber were dissing on their buddy Pepper because he's a cheapskate. And he overheard them and they were caught. So he said, "What are you saying about me?" And they realized they were caught. So they had to come up with an answer. Rick, you got a guess on this one?
He said, "At least I don't have gas like the cucumber."
oh, nice.
Oh,
Well done. Okay.
no.
Cynthia?
Oh,
I don't know.
Mm,
no,
Tomato, pepper,
no.
cucumber.
Mm.
You got any idea, Lori?
I'm trying to think of, I don't know, like no heat, all sweet, something. I don't know.
You're
I
on the
don't
right
know.
track with these
Okay,
puns. You're on the
okay.
right track. But okay, Teresa, we want to
No.
let Lori go. So we're going to go ahead and let you tell us.
Okay. All right. So the pepper responded, "I don't buy it."
oh my gosh.
I don't. Oh, wow. I had to think about that. Oh,
Oh,
I don't buy it. Okay.
Oh, that's funny.
That might be the worst one yet.
Yeah.
good.
It had nothing to do with the vegetables at all. Usually it has
That's funny.
something to
I
do
don't
with.
blame
All right. Well, thank
you.
you
Works.
for sticking around for that and being punished. And thank you again for joining us. This has really been inspirational and very good to hear. Finally, glad we got NatureSweet here.
I know. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
www.naturesweet.com. There's probably some great recipes. I know there's some great recipes there because I saw them. Listeners, go there, check it out. A lot of good, helpful information and ways to serve those tomatoes. Anything else
Oh,
you
there's
want?
one with a baseball on it, right? Ready for baseball season.
That's right. Well, we're sponsoring Little League World Series again this
Oh,
year.
that's right.
Talk about
Oh,
needing healthy snacks at a ballpark. You can only eat hot dogs for so long.
Hey,
Those
hey,
are my
hey,
yes.
parents.
be nice. Be
Very
nice.
good.
Thank you, Lori. Thanks so
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to the Produce Buzzers podcast, brought to you by Produce Buzz, the gathering place for lovers of fresh fruits and veggies. We hope you were entertained a bit and educated a lot about fresh produce. Be sure to join us next time, and please tell your friends to do so as well. Like, share, and comment on our Produce Buzz Facebook page, and check out our website at www.producebuzz.com. There you will find articles about fresh fruits and veggies, how to select, store, and prepare them, as well as lots of interesting facts about all the wonderful bounty the earth provides for us. Until next time, be fruitful and don't forget to veg out.